Today I wanna close this little series that we did, and I want to talk about why Sunday law. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because, last week when I preached about Sabbath Sunday issue, and then the question came up why would anybody want to pass the Sunday law? Why would that even be an issue? So I want to kind of focus on that and answer that question if I can. So we'll start out with this slide. And by the way, I completely changed the sermon from this morning, the order of slides and everything, because I didn't like the way it came out this morning. So it's sometimes good to have two services because you can see what you don't like. Genesis 2, 1-3. If you're a Seventh-day Adventist, you understand this. If you're not, I want to explain it. In the Seventh-day Adventist Church, we believe that Saturday is the seventh day of the week. We believe that Saturday is a holy day. We believe that Saturday is the day when we don't work and when we worship God. Why? Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them, Genesis 2, 1-3. And on the seventh day, God finished his work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work that he had done. So we are looking at the very beginning of the Bible. I mean, we are looking at the text that was written before there was Israelites, before there was Jewish people. Because, a lot of people say the Saturday is the Jewish holiday. Well, this was written at the beginning of creation. There was no Jews, there was no Mesopotamians, there was no Assyrians, there was no Americans, there was nobody. There was just Adam and Eve. You see, just two people. And God, when he finished everything, it says here that he rested on the seventh day from all his work that he had done. So God, what did he do? He not only rested, but God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work that he had done in creation. So if God does something, he did something, right? It says here that he rested, he blessed it, and he made it whole. If God does something, then it stands forever. You see, you can't say 5 days later or 5,000 years later, oh, this doesn't stand anymore. This doesn't hold anymore. If he made it holy, then it's holy forever. If he made it blessed, then it's blessed forever. If he said to rest on it, then you're supposed to rest on it on that day forever, as long as the time goes on and on. So this is the story of creation. God blessed it, made it holy, and something else was going on at this time, at the time of creation. We already know that Satan, fallen angel, was working against God. And in the same book of Genesis, we see that the serpent said to the woman, what did he say? You remember the story. He came into the garden. He was talking to the woman, Eve, and he said, well, what is this tree over here? Nice looking tree. And you remember the whole story, right? She says, well, we're not supposed to eat of that tree. God said you can eat of any other tree in the garden, but not this one. What did Satan say? He said to the woman, you will not surely die. Even though she just told him, God said we're going to die. He said, you are not going to die. Why? For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be open and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. From the very beginning, from the very origins of the human race, Satan is trying to deceive human beings as to the will of God. God says one thing, you see, and Satan comes in and says something else. From the very beginning. And you know that human beings, they fell for that. She fell for it and she ate of the tree. And the next thing you know, Adam is eating of the tree. And the next thing you know, they're driven out of the Garden of Eden. And the next thing you know is that the earliest civilizations of the world, they are beginning to worship not God, but sun God. And you can see on the next slide here, the name is Utu. He was the Mesopotamian sun god. So as the human race begins its journey through history, right away they are deceived and they are beginning to worship the sun god. At Lithia, the summer solstice, the sun is at its highest point in the sky. Many ancient cultures mark this date as significant, and the concept of sun worship is one nearly as old as mankind itself. So the human beings were deceived into worshiping sun god from the earliest days. I mean, as soon as Adam and Eve left and went out of the Garden of Eden, something is beginning to happen. Instead of remembering the day when God rested, they're beginning to worship another deity. You see, in Egypt, in Greece, in all of these different countries, native countries, you see, and you can, Debbie, you can show these few pictures of the sun god. All of these civilizations, they're beginning to worship the sun god. Deuteronomy 4:19, William Tyler Alcott, he wrote the book Sun Lore of All Ages, and this was published in 1914, and he says, nothing proves so much the antiquity of solar idolatry as the care Moses took to prohibit it. Take care, Moses said to the people of Israel, lest when you lift up your eyes to heaven and see the sun, the moon, and all the stars, you be seduced and drawn away to pay worship and adoration to the creatures which the Lord your God has made for the service of all the nations under heaven. So you have Moses warning people back at his time not to worship the sun or the moon or any other things that God has created. Now, if you look for the rest of the history, if you look at different ancient cultures, you look, for example, at India. Debbie, you have that picture there. Sun worship is prominent in all of these religions. In Egypt, there was God Ra, the sun god. In Greece, they worshipped Helios, sun god. In Rome, they worshipped also another sun god. Obviously, in India, I already mentioned it. Mayans, they had worship of the sun. As you're looking at all of these pictures, and then you look at this next picture, you begin to see what is happening to Christianity. You see, throughout the history, everybody is worshiping the sun god, and everybody is worshiping the day of the sun god, which is the first day of the week. Sunday, the day of the sun, Sunday. And you go a little bit, a century by century by century, and you come to early Christianity. And what do? Look at how they are picturing Jesus. You see? And all of a sudden, Christianity is adapting to the culture around them. And you look at the next slide, which is the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire was a diverse empire filled with pagans. Pagans lived in Judea. Pagans lived in every part of the Roman Empire, and they all worshipped in the Roman temples on which day? Sunday, the first day of the week. Why? Because they worshipped the sun god. Now, Christianity comes into place here. It is born in Jerusalem. It is born in Israel, this Christianity. But Jewish people are against it. They want to destroy it. Just to give you a quick little history, Jesus was crucified in AD 35. Jerusalem was destroyed in AD 70. Romans came in and destroyed Jerusalem and the Jews. Why? Because they were constantly rising up against the Roman Empire. So they come in and they destroy Jerusalem. They exile all the Jews from Israel. Jews didn't go back until 1946, 1947, after World War II. That's 1900 plus years. Jews didn't set foot in Israel. Jews were despised and hated by Romans. And this is the situation and this is the context in which Christianity is born. And Christians, they follow the way of Jesus. Jesus taught in synagogues on the Sabbath day. You see, Jesus was a Saturday Sabbath observing Jew. So now these Christians, they are trying to maneuver, and they are trying to survive. And they're trying to figure out how they're going to stay alive in this very hostile situation where you have Jews who wanted to kill them, and now you have Romans who are confusing them with the Jews because they're also going to church on worshiping God on Saturday. So what do they do? According to Bacchiocchi, Samuel Bacchiocchi, what they did is they started worshiping both Saturday and Sunday. Saturday became the day of fasting and study. Sunday became the day of feasting and songs. And as the time went by, you see, Sunday basically took over, and this was also a wonderful way to convert pagans who were already used to going to a temple on a Sunday. You see, so this is how the change slowly took place. God said that He rested on that day, He made it holy, but as the time went by, you see, what I'm saying here is not necessarily there is a human component and there is also a spiritual component. I see Satan working throughout the ages, you see, to change this, to pull people away from God. Justin Martyr, who was born in AD 165, he was born in Judea, and he was born to pagan parents, and he became a Christian. And he writes a letter to the Roman emperor explaining Christianity and explaining Sunday. And he says, but Sunday is the day on which we all hold our, and I want you to remember that word, common assembly. We hold our common assembly on a Sunday. Why? Because it is the first day on which God, having wrought a change in the darkness and matter, made the world. And Jesus Christ, our Savior, on the same day arose from the dead. So now you have a problem because Christians, they are switching worship from Saturday to Sunday. They need to explain it theologically. They need to explain it doctrinally. So what do they say? They say, well, there was darkness, and then God started His creation on day number 1, on the first day, and then Jesus rose on the first day. So this is why we are now worshiping on Sunday. You see, on the day of the sun. So this is what Justin Martyr is saying. For He was crucified on the day before that of Saturn or Saturday, and on the day after that of Saturn, which is the day of the sun, having appeared to His apostles and disciples, He taught them these things, which we have submitted to you also for your consideration. He was trying to get the Roman emperor to be kind to Christians. And eventually the whole empire became Christian in 3rd century. Eventually the whole empire just switched, worshiping all of these pagan gods, and they began worshiping all of the idols of the Catholic Church, St. Peter and St. Mary and St. Mark and St. Luke and all of these saints. And you go into a Catholic cathedral and there are all of these saints everywhere you see that you can worship now. So basically it was a very simple switch where the Christianity took over and merged with paganism, and all of a sudden you have the Catholicism. So fast forward to the United States today, you have the administration that I showed you last week. Those of you who were here and watched that sermon, the administration in our government right now, you have a number of people who call themselves Dominionists. Dominionists believe that America is a Christian nation. And what do? They oppose the separation of church and state. They mix well with Christian Reconstructionists who want to impose strict biblical laws on America, including execution for adultery, blasphemy, and homosexuality. So what I did last week, I told you that in America right now, you have in the highest echelons of power people who are able, ready at any time to turn America into a totally Christian country. And a lot of people can say, well, there's nothing wrong with that. We all want everybody to be Christian. Yes, we do, but not by force, not by legislation. We want people to accept Jesus because they believe it in their heart, not because we have passed the law that they need to go to church on Sunday and they can't have a gay marriage. You see, that's my feeling, and that's also the position of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, which we have had this huge, emphasis on religious liberty and separation of church and state. So we don't want that, but there are forces right now in this country who are capable and ready to do that at any time. On September 7, 1947, Pope Pius XII declared that the time for reflection and planning is past. It's over in religious and moral fields, and the time for action has arrived. And then he said that the battle in religious and moral fields hinged on 5 points. Religious culture, number 1. And you hear this all the time, right? Religious cultures. The culture needs to change. We need to get back to God. Law and order, marriage between man and woman, no abortion. Culture needs to change. The sanctifying of Sunday was his second point. The saving of the Christian family. You hear this all the time, right? Family, one man, one woman, man and woman. No gay people allowed to be married. You see, the saving of the Christian family. So you see here the agenda that was put together in September of 1947 by this Pope. Social justice and loyalty and truthfulness in dealings. Those are the 5 points that he said the church needs to start acting on. Pope Benedict XVI said people cannot be sanctified except on Sunday. I want you to understand the logic of the Catholic Church and the logic of the Protestant Church. The logic of people who go to church on a Sunday, who believe that Sunday is the day of worship. People cannot be sanctified except on Sunday. That Christ transferred Sabbath sacredness to Sunday. That only those who keep Sunday belong to Christ. That only on Sunday does the risen Lord make himself present among his followers. That only these worship God properly, and that may Sunday regain all its importance. So this is Pope Benedict XVI saying this now. So I want you to look at this, what he's saying. I mean, you can read it if you want to slowly in your head. And I want you to notice something about it. It's not the Bible. That's not the scripture. There's not the verse in there that he quotes. This is the interpretation of man. This is the interpretation of the Catholic Church. You see? He says that Christ transferred Sabbath sacredness to Sunday. No such thing ever happened. They did that, you see. He also said only on Sunday can we experience a personal encounter with Christ. So when you're talking to a Catholic person, you see, and they look at all of this, they believe all of this, and they believe it from their clean heart. I don't think that Catholic people, my dad's family, they were all Catholic, you know. I don't think that any of them was bad people or is bad people. This is just what they believe. This is what they were taught. You can only experience Christ and unity with him on a Sunday. So this same Pope Benedict XVI, he made the journey to the United States of America and also to visit the United Nations. And this was on April 18, 2008. And this is what he said. The RCC stands for the Roman Catholic Church, makes its contribution in the ethical and moral sphere according to the dispositions of international law, helps to define that law, and makes appeal to it. So look at what he's saying, that the church needs to be involved in creation of the international law, helping defining it, you know, and makes appeal to it, that we live in a time when what? Little groups of independent people threaten the unity of the world. You remember when Justin Martyr, when I told you to remember that word common? When he wrote to the emperor and says, this is when we meet for our common worship, we all get together, you see, unity. So the Catholic Church attempted for 16 centuries to control this planet. And they did a very good job of it. You see, the kings bowed down to them. They were in control of everything. And then after the French Revolution, they lost all of that power. And now you see the Pope in 2008 saying, hey, we need to get back in the saddle here. We need to help the United Nations and the United States of America. We need to help them to define the law. You see, and these little groups, if you let them alone, they are threatening the unity of the world. And that the only way to combat this problem is what? By establishing law and then ordering all of society according to this law, thus promoting peace and goodwill throughout the earth. So this is the position of the Catholic Church. We need a law, we need to pass it, and we need to enforce it, and everybody needs to obey it, and then we are going to have unity, and we are going to have peace and goodwill throughout the earth. And that's nonsense, because that's never going to happen. You're never going to have peace and unity throughout the world. You may have submission, and you may have people just keeping their mouth shut for the fear of repercussion, but you're not going to have peace, and you're not going to have unity, and you're not going to have paradise on this earth, no matter which law you pass. So this is designed for what? This is designed with only one thing in mind, and that is to give the power to the people who are running the church, both Catholic and Protestant organizations. And you see this in the next slide. The issue of observing Sunday as the holy day is ultimately based on the authority of the church which our Lord created. So they believe now, this is why Protestants and Catholics are uniting, because they want the power over the whole planet. The issue of observing Sunday is based on the authority of the church. It's not based on the authority of the Bible. Because the verses that I read to you in the beginning, God created, you see, and then He rested, they didn't change. You cannot delete that. You cannot say, oh, that's no longer true. So you have two competing powers here. The Scripture, which clearly says one thing, and then you have the church that says, well, in a circular kind of a, logical reasoning, Jesus gave authority to Peter. Peter is the first pope, and now we have the church, and now we are the authority, and now this is how it's going to be. And we're going to use Sunday to unite everybody under our umbrella, and people are going to just, do what we want them to do. So, when I look at this, I see two reasons why Sunday law. Human reasons, obviously, is to reestablish the authority and the power of the church. Because the church, Catholic Church, has lost that power. American Protestantism also has lost that power. There was a little bit of power that there was here in this country during the early days of America when the Pilgrims came, and in the colonies, they passed some of the laws that they wanted to, religious laws, but eventually all of that was done away with, and you had a separation of church and state for the last, 2+ centuries. But now, you see this movement where we need to go back to religion. We need to go back to church. And this is why Protestants and Catholics are uniting in the United States, because they know that only together they can manage something like this. Only together. The spiritual reason, spiritual war. Satan is warring against God. From day one, Satan is warring against God. As to confuse people about God. To confuse people about who God is. He confused Eve. Very good at confusing her. She knew what God said. God talked to her, right? And said one way, and then all of a sudden she's confused. She doesn't know what to do. You look at the world today, and the world is confused. Is it Sunday? Is it Saturday? Does it matter? Who cares? Pick one day. It doesn't matter. It's all good. I attended Baptist seminary here in Denver years and years ago. And I had world-known professors in there, and we would argue this point over and over again, and they would come back to, well, yeah, the Bible doesn't say it, but so go ahead and just pick any day. So you have confusion out there. So you have basically what's left? Seventh-day Adventist Church, Church of God, 7-day, people of Israel, Jewish people, religious Jewish people, conservatives. These are the only basically three groups and a bunch of smaller groups that still observe Saturday. Is it going to be an issue? Yesterday we remembered 9/11. And that was yesterday. Yesterday was September 11th. We are not remembering it today. We can, but it's not an anniversary. Anniversary was yesterday. We didn't do a big deal about it on Thursday, on 9/10 or on 9/9. We always, every year since this thing happened, we remember it on 9/11. And on 9/11, we have ceremonies and we have services, and people go to New York and they lay wreaths and they, pledge allegiance, and they remember all of the people who perished on that terrible day. That's what we remember. And we remember Iraq war that took place right after that as a result of 9/11, and I put this little picture to remind everybody of that. We lost 3,000 people on 9/11, and then we lost a bunch of soldiers in Iraq, and Iraqi people lost, maybe 500,000 plus people in that war. So when 9/11 comes around, it's kind of sacred in this country, because of all of the people who died, all of the people who lost their lives, all of the families who were devastated on that day, and all of the repercussions that took place from that day on. We're not the same country anymore. After 9/11, they passed Patriot Act, to where the government can basically take away all of your privacy. And there is nothing you can do without the government knowing it. Whether you email or scroll through internet or whatever you do, they have the right to know everything now after 9/11. So of course we're going to remember 9/11 because it had a tremendous impact on our personal lives. When God gave the Sabbath, when He rested on that day, He did this to make a tremendous, huge impact on our lives, so that we could come into a communion with Him on that special day, on the day which He blessed and made holy. And if nothing else, if He didn't give you any other good reason, He can always say, well, because I decided so. This is how I want it done. You see, He worked for 6 days, and then He rested. And He says, okay, now you work 6 days, and then when you're done, you come and you spend that day with me. Not 9/13 or 9/14. 9/11 is when the anniversary is. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. God tells Moses, 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. Moses told them earlier, you remember we just read this, where he said to them, do not look up to heaven at the sun or moon or stars and worship them. So Sabbath has a specific purpose. To remember that God is your God. He is Lord your God. To remember that He created you. To remember that you owe your life to Him. To remember that you're on this planet because He wants you on this planet. On it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, your male servant or your female servant or your livestock, or the sojourner who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. You see, at the beginning, year 1, month 1, you see, day 1, day 2, day 3, January the 7th of that first year is when God rested. Not January the 6th, not January the 8th, like the Catholic Church wants us to believe. They believe in this whole theology of the 8th day, new creation. You see, everything else is okay, but Jesus started everything anew on Sunday. Well, cool, but that's not in the Bible. If you want to go with it, that's fine, but it's not in the Bible. You see? So you got to go with that particular date. January 7th of the year 1. You see? For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. So, is it going to happen? I think it will, personally. I told you last week, I don't know when, but I'll tell you something else. Another week has gone by, and I'm looking at the world around us. We are in the middle of pandemic. We are in here wearing masks. I heard Dr. Fauci yesterday say that the best case scenario, and I know that, some people don't take him seriously. He says the best case scenario, we get vaccine by the end of the year. It's going to take another year for everybody to get vaccinated and for the country to actually be safe. So, if he is right, we are looking at living in this kind of a mess for another year and almost 4 months. Government bailouts are about to end. So far, we have printed so much money, and so far this country has gone in such a debt as never in the history of this land. Stock market is through the roof because the government is propping up all of those companies and buying their stocks for the first time in the American history. So if you look at all of that and you ask yourself, what's more likely in the next year and a half? Prosperity or disaster? I would say disaster. They have 5 or 6 hurricanes forming right now in the Atlantic. I heard the governor of Louisiana the other day say, if we get hit with another one, he's not sure they're going to be able to recover. California is burning all the way from Los Angeles to Portland, Oregon. Disasters everywhere, natural disasters. Climate is changing. Whatever you want to believe about it, doesn't matter. It's changing. It's getting warmer, it's getting crazier, ice is melting, species are dying, populations are rising, people don't have food, like Philip says. I talked to the little village where we went in Indonesia, on that little island. All of the teachers had to go back to their own city because of coronavirus. So the school is closed. People don't have any food. Government is not allowing them to travel anywhere. India yesterday had 97,000 new cases of corona in one day. So they're basically about having 100,000 new cases every day. United States, on a regular basis, 1,000 people plus are dying every day from corona. I never thought my mother was going to die from corona, but she did. They didn't put on her death certificate that she died from corona. They said she died because she fell. Accident, they put on the death certificate. You see, but she was positive, didn't eat, lost her strength, and fell and hit her head, and then, died 3 weeks later. How many more people are going to die? What kind of disasters are we going to deal with? Financial difficulties. Amazon is trying to hire 30,000 people. You know what? I read this article where they want to hire 30,000 people, and they said that according to their studies, this summer, 53 million people were forced to look for another job in this country. So this country and this world is on the cusp of just falling off of the cliff. Literally falling off of the cliff. And people are out there, just being totally stupid. Stupid about their health, stupid about their finances, stupid about their future, conspiracy theories, all of that is going crazy. And pretty soon, we could be in a situation where all of a sudden this whole thing starts falling apart. And then what? Then what are you going to do? What are you going to do if people can't find jobs? What are you going to do if the government starts going bankrupt? What are you going to do if there is no recovery right away? What are all of these people going to do who are about to lose their apartments? Where are they going to go? Is there room on the sidewalks anymore? I mean, Kim, our group goes out there every Wednesday. I don't know what you see, but I know you see the same thing I see, but there is tents everywhere.
At the place we go, they've turned another corner. It used to just be a half a block. And they turned the corner and went 4 more blocks.
Used to be half a block, they turned the corner and went 4 more blocks.
And now they've turned another.
And now they turn it, so you have a whole community of homeless people, 5 or 6 blocks around, you see, living on the streets. Milos went downtown, tried to rent a place for a new church that we need to start down there. And the owner, when he heard we wanted to do a church, he said, no way, because of homeless people. He says, if you open the church, I'm not going to be able to deal with homeless people. He says, every morning I got to get up and we need to clean the sidewalks because homeless people come and go to bathroom on a sidewalk right here downtown, literally a block from the baseball field. He says, every morning, first thing we do is we go and we clean all the, this is what happens. So who's going to be ready for this kind of stuff? Who's going to be ready? And how are we going to be ready? Jesus, and I'm going to close with this. Jesus in Matthew chapter 12, his mother and brothers came to see him, and he asked a question, who is my brothers? Who are my brothers and my sisters? And then stretching out his hand toward his disciples, he said, here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother. When all of this comes down, are you going to be able to be one of these people? Or are you going to say, well, I'm so confused, I don't know. Maybe it's first day, maybe it's third day, maybe it's 8th day, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. This is why it's important to know this stuff now. And generally, when the trouble comes in the history of this planet, most people fold. And most people are not going to stand up. Most people fail. Most people compromise. Most people look after their own good. So, what Philip said, go on a mission trip. Strengthen your faith. Work for God now so that you'll be able to recognize His voice later. Get involved. Next week, I'm going to start a new series on how to deal with these times of troubles that are coming up here for us. How to deal with it. Spiritually, physically, materially, how to prepare for it. So I want to spend 3 or 4 weeks on that. I hope that in the meantime we are able to go down to Louisiana and God forbids anywhere else, but the way it looks like it's going to be more trouble. And I'll tell you what we have in this church so you know. We have several people who are always willing to help financially. We have, not everybody can, you see, I understand that, but we have some who always come through. And we also have connections where people, like Philip says, where with one phone call you can get $30,000 worth of food donated. So we have that. We have those connections too. But what we don't have and what we desperately need is hands on the deck. You see, and I know it's tough times. I know everybody's trying to survive and work, make money, and but I'm just asking you, do your part. Those of you who can give, give. Those of you who can't give money but have a little time, then call me and come and help around the church. Me and Milos, I'm growing muscles, I'm telling you. We unloaded so many boxes and so many trips we made to different places to get this stuff, but I can't do it. I'm going to be 62 here in a few weeks, guys. I need some young guys helping out, So we had Tony LaBeouf right there in the back all the way. He called and he says, I'm going to come for an hour. And he came and helped for a couple of hours, and in the process stepped on the nail, but he's here today, so God bless you, brother. You can come for 2 hours, great. If you can come for half an hour, great. We always have stuff to sort. We always have stuff to prepare, and this is what I believe in more than anything else. I believe in preparation. We have a lot of stuff already, but we need to pack it, we need to load it, we need to go. And we need several of you to go with us down to Louisiana as soon as we are capable of having your trailer with us. And who knows, down the road, maybe the Lord will give us, a truck or something. We have the RV. Philip is working on that, you see, for medical stuff for Kim to use. And so we were blessed with it. But I just want you to be prepared and to be ready and to keep studying and to tell other people about what we are doing. And I think God is going to bless us and He's going to protect us. And pray that you're not deceived. Pray that you're not confused. And I think that's also very important.